Welcome. We are back playing some Dokkan Battle, and this time I wanted to sort of address, or not even address, but just more so make a list, compile a list of things that people don't really say or talk about when it comes to Dokkan Battle. What I have learned having a Dokkan Battle for 3 years now, going on 4 years pretty soon, and how being primarily free to play has shaped a lot of how I pull in the game, what I do in the game from celebration to celebration. So without really, sticking in the mud here and just rambling without getting into it, let's just talk about lesson number 1, which is that characters are fickle. The reason I'm starting with Vegito here is just because at one point in this game, you would have a hard time of saying that any character was even close to this Vegito, right? Goku and Vegeta were just too strong for months and months and months and months and months and months, to the point where they essentially invalidated most content that Dokkan released for about 5 to 6 months. Completely invalidated. And that's normal a lot of times of the anniversary characters, right? Beast Gohan famously has stayed extremely good even up until, I want to say, 2 months ago. That's a year and a half or something to that degree. I mean, a year and 3/4 or whatever of time that Beast Gohan stayed a completely dominant character who was at least useful on niche teams, right? Niche setups. And these are exemplary characters, right? It is much more likely that you end up in a situation like this character who is starting to fade out pretty overtly. And a lot of that has to do with the power creep in the game. But lesson 1 being that characters are fickle is important because you'll have a lot of characters in Dokkan. You can see that I recently pulled Topo, and I'm slowly just awakening all of the characters I got from the most recent banner. And as I sort of spill over this list, let your eyes glaze over as I show you how worthless 98% of the characters you're seeing as I pass by are, right? One of the best supports Dokkan has ever seen is unrunnably bad. Because while they're supporting, they'll be doing so little otherwise that they can't really make up for the void that they create by not having any damage, not really being a tank, right? So as I pan over here, you'll just sort of see that your characters are fickle, which means that you're sort of incentivized, like a lot of old gacha, to always be upgrading your box, getting new characters, etc., etc. Dokkan, at the end of the day, is a very old gacha game compared to the landscape that we have, and they haven't yet modernized in the way that, in a modern game. I'm playing Chaos Zero Nightmare right now. In a modern game, this character right here, Namek Vegeta, who I just recently got, would be fine to run still. In Dokkan's case, he's essentially unrunnable, right? And that is just sort of the difference between how PvE games and gacha are being made now versus how they were made. Let's jump off of that, right? Let's jump off of that point. Number 2 then is going to be about banners, and I'll say that number 2 is going to be called something like banners are bad. Probably a lot of times banners are pretty bad. And here's an example. This Daima Goku is very good. This Piccolo is pretty good. This Kid Goku is not very good. This Vegeta is not very good. This Roshi is functionally useless. This Vegeta is not very good. This Topo is not very good. This guy is not very good, though he is coming up on an easy A, and this guy is going to easy A and will probably be good, right? Not very good. I mean, literally just unusable, essentially, and then bad, right? And this is the standard Dokkan fare for a banner, You look at this, I mean, these characters literally can't even awaken into TURs. Dokkan banners are bad. For a long time, a thing that I have preached is that if you are going to pull on a Dokkan banner, especially with pity in the game, and you can take this to the bank with every single gacha that you want to pull on, and let's actually play the animations just so you have a little something to watch. If you are going to pull on a gacha game and it has pity. You need to get the character. I'm not saying to pay. I'm not saying that you can't be free to play, but you should go into Gacha with the mindset that I am going to save until I can get the character. And if you aren't doing that regularly, you're going to have a bad time playing these games. Look at the situation I am in. I literally pulled for this Daimogoku, right? I pulled for him. I ended up missing pulling the character, but my plan is to see what happens in about a week, see what his part 2 LR is, and then possibly return with the coins to grab this Goku. All right. If you are not saving like this, I am at 1470. I spent about 400 stones, 500 stones on this banner. If you aren't saving with a plan, if you aren't constantly practicing good stone saving habits, you're going to watch this number deplete so quickly, and you are never going to be in a position where you can pull for, you know, all 4 LRs on a major celebration, where you can pull for every character in the anniversary, where you can pull for every character in the worldwide download celebration. Banners are pretty bad in Dokkan Battle, and because they are so bad, you need to be ready to actually hit the character. Now, there are going to be times, like I said with Daimogoku, where I was like, I'm willing to miss this character if I at least try. I'm not saying you can never try, but look how many stones I have. By the time the 11th anniversary comes out, I could have like 2,500, 2,800, 3,000 stones, and the only thing I pay for is the monthly pass. So 90 stones a month for like $10. Only thing I'm buying, right? If you're not in that kind of position, if you don't have that kind of comfort because you are not saving your stones, if you're going all in on every banner and you're not even hitting the character because you're not even at least saving to this pity, right? What are you doing? What are you doing? You're wasting your time, essentially, right? You're wasting your time. So let's get to number 3. So number 3 is going to be the way that Dokkan does content is not meant to be played as your main gacha, I would say. If you're someone who likes to play, you know, multiple gacha, if you're free to play and, you know, you don't got a gambling addiction, of course, like you just enjoy having a game on your phone that you can play. You enjoy the experience of character collecting and the variability of gacha with every account being different because everyone could be pulling for different things, then I would say that Dokkan is not a great main game. Dokkan is limited. It gets sandwiched by its release schedules. And while I have talked at length about how they could alleviate this, I have talked at length about how they could fix these characters so that they could have different sorts of grinds. Like, let me just say, I'm currently link leveling this character very slowly. I'm doing the absolute minimum. I just got this character. I'm doing the absolute minimum link leveling. I'm just doing a few runs a day, and this is the only grind that exists in this entire game. Whereas if I was on something like Epic 7 or Chaos Zero Nightmare, there are so many things I could be doing that help enhance a character. Like, say I go to, I don't know, this character, right? And you see all these, like, you know, points and things you can click and, you know, a bunch of little nodes that interact with the character in different ways. But that is it, really, right? That is it as far as what Dokkan is able to offer you with character customization in mind. Like, if I go to this character and, you know, I hit him with his awakenings and I get all of his nodes up, the only thing else I can do is add in these equipments and then, of course, open up their, like, potential route slots. Once that is done, it is just link leveling and then the character is finished, right? That's it. I would say that this is why you can't really keep a Dokkan as like a mainstay game, because it's mostly just a sandbox. When you actually look at Dokkan, it's just a sandbox to sort of put teams against. when you go into the actual game, it's just, the value of it is just, how do you feel about being like, oh, I want to try this team out right here? Like, how do you feel about this? All right. The progression stops you in your tracks. It's something I would kind of like to see them address. Right now, because Dokkan isn't a PvP game or something, there's not something endlessly enjoyable to do on Dokkan, sadly. And which means that you are often just waiting between huge swaths of inactivity with the game. And for a lot of people, that's fine, because to them, you know, Gacha is just something they do on their phone when they're commuting, or they're watching TV, or maybe they're in queue playing League of Legends or something and they got a few minutes, and that's fine. But if you're someone who's coming into this like, man, I'm really looking for a Dragon Ball game, maybe Sparking Zero wasn't the best for me, I don't like fighting games, maybe, or arena fighters specifically, maybe Gekishin Squadra, I don't really like that mobile format, it's a little too simple, Gekishin Squadra has its own issues. I'm looking to do something that like I can regularly do, that is super engaging. Dokkan doesn't really have that. Dokkan is great for its moments, if you're a collector, obviously. But yeah, do not try to turn Dokkan into something that it is not, because it will burn you. All right, it will burn you. Let's get into one or two more things and then we'll wrap up. So another big thing about Dokkan that I think is sort of it's useful to get down just in your head, and there will be exceptions to this rule, is that Dokkan works in content cycles. And the way these content cycles work essentially is that, let's say a character like Super Saiyan Goku and Super Saiyan Vegeta, who fuse into Vegito, releases during the anniversary, so the 28th. This character was essentially unchallenged until, we're still scrolling here, I would probably say around here. And to give you an example, so remember, January the 28th to July 6th. 6 months. Those characters lorded over the game. And it wasn't even particularly close. There were other characters who were good, but none as great. 6 months. So how does that work? How do we quantify those 6 months, right? How do we in our mind envision why that was the case? Well, it's because these fights came out for the actual anniversary, including this one right here. So we had Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, which they dog walked. We had the Ultimate Red Zones, which they dog walked. They even had this is versus Vegeta. They even had, you know, Goku was literally AGL, right? Festival Battles, which they are still one of the best characters in the game for this mode. If you've had Vegito for the last 7 months, 6 months, 7 months, then you should have no issue at some point completing this outside of just being bored to death. And the reason this changed dramatically, because remember, this was released, this was released, this was released, and none of these were worth really talking about. Eventually we got to this, and this is what we call the content cycle in Dokkan. The only thing, and I said this the day that Vegito came out, the day that I went, hey, this is how we'll know when Vegito is out of here, it's going to be content. People thought for a long time they just need to drop a character who is better than Vegito. And the thing about that is, they're fucking wrong. It was obvious that they weren't going to drop a character that was just flatly better than Vegito. What they needed to do then was to drop an event that made it so that Goku could not get into Vegito safely. And now that Vegito doesn't have a lot of time to stack, not only is he not hitting exceptionally hard, but he's not even tanky enough to survive some of these bosses, right? That is the content cycle. Last year, because we want to keep things parity, or not last year, but 2 years ago, because we want to keep things parity, this was done by Fusion Zamasu, who obliterated the best characters in the game, right? Characters like, again, Goku and yeah, Goku and Vegeta. Characters like Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Vegeta, as well as, where are they? Are they not here? Are they, maybe I'm just missing them. And then here we go here. Characters like Goku GT and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta were just stonewalled by how immediately this character started outputting damage. Now, there isn't to say that there were other problems with this character that like made it impossible, but we really did see the sort of end of the bomb meta with Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Goku, right? If they aren't willing to put out this content, then we end up in the metas that we've had recently, where a character like Vegeta just stays good for so long without any challenge, right? And that is the cycle. The great thing about the cycle is you can follow it. Every single year, if you're a new player, anniversary will happen around the 28th of January. After that, the next landing point, if you're going to talk about characters who are strictly better than the anniversary units, 6 months away. Technically about 5, but let's call it 6. If you keep this in mind, then you always have a big window to save. And you might be saying, well, what if I'm hearing from people that there are these other celebrations that I want to pull on, such as the Realm of Gods character that released this year, which was, and where is he? He's right here. Such as a Golden Week. Thankfully, and this is pretty common, and I guess will lead us into a final point, which is that TURs in Dokkan are almost always weaker than their LR counterparts at the tippity top level. It is extremely difficult to make the argument that a TUR is sniffing the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spot in any given tier list. Not that tier lists are the end all be all for Dokkan Battle, because this is ultimately a PvE game, but when we're looking at tier lists, when I make lists, the thing I'm trying to do is convey to you that something is worth pulling on, potentially spending your money on, and even your free-to-play stones on, because stones have an inherent money value. Free-to-play stones are worth something because we know how much a stone costs. And for that reason, I usually steer clear of telling people to go all in on TURs. The cycle comes for us all, but yeah, here's a little rant video just talking about some things that have become more and more apparent as we've played through Dokkan. It's been almost 4 years coming up in, I think, next Saiyan Day, because if you guys wanted to know, and well, this will be one of the last things we do just because, you know, a little nostalgic. I started playing Dokkan around the time that this guy released. I had no idea about celebrations. I had no idea what the special ones were. This character released, and I was like, man, he looks cool. I'm going to pull for him. What I also did, if you're curious, is around that same time, a yellow coin banner was up, and it was this cell who easy aid, and was just being like a rerun or something. I can't remember why this guy was being rerun, genuinely, but he was, oh, I guess it did happen in 2023. But either way, I guess he easy aid. I don't even have a great memory of this because I was so new. But I tried to pull for him because I was like, whoa, I'm coming from Epic 7 where you can use any character in the game and they'll be good. So I was like, man, if I pull this cell, he'll probably be really good. And little did I know that stones would be so scarce and that cell would be so bad. With all that being said, though, like if you like the video, subscribe to the club. We'll go make it, and peace.